Well, it's been a tumultuous week in the UK. Resignations, promotions, demotions, and everything in between. To get her expert insights on the latest out of the UK, I'm joined, as I am every Thursday, by Talk TV contributor Esther Krakue. Esther, great to see you. Hope you're well. Hope you're managing to stay on top of whatever madness is happening this week in the UK. Talk us through it. So we've got Rishi Sunak. I want to get your opinions on, he's gone in there with a sledgehammer to the end of, the remnants of Truss's rule. He's reinstated fracking and he's refusing to confirm a pension rise in line with all of this stuff. Give us your opinions, and also I want to get your insights on Kemi Badenoch and what's going on there, because we've spoken about her in the past. But first off, Rishi Sunak, how's his first few days been?
Yeah, his first few days have been interesting. I'm still trying to gauge the strategy around his cabinet picks. He's kept Jeremy Hunt as Chancellor, and I'm assuming because he doesn't want to have the fifth Chancellor the UK has had in literally 4 months. And he'll probably be spearheading a lot of economic policy around that. He's actually kept Suella Braverman as Home Secretary as well, which is very interesting because she's one of the more sort of hardline Conservatives within the party. She was very against Liz Truss's idea of increasing immigration from certain parts of the world, particularly India, and she made the point that Indian migrants actually are the group that overstay their visas the most in the country. So to have her in his cabinet, that's an interesting pick. I see that he's trying to appease a lot of more sort of right-wing Conservatives within the party. On the fracking ban, that is just confusing because he said with Liz Truss during the leadership elections that he would support fracking if it had local community support, which is effectively a ban because local communities in the UK don't support fracking generally. There's this whole kind of NIMBY attitude about it, and there's also this misconception that fracking is bad for the environment and that it's going to cause earthquakes. There's a huge fracking industry in the US and it doesn't cause any earthquakes, and actually that's scientifically inaccurate. Fracking doesn't actually go deep enough into the earth to actually hit the tectonic plates to even cause earthquakes. So it's a complete fallacy.
Yes.
But for him to outright ban it again, that's the weird thing because it's effectively banned, right? If you're only going to allow fracking with community support, it's not going to happen. But for him to go back and say that it's banned, again, very incoherent strategy. And for the Conservative leadership, for the Conservative membership that were effectively cut out of the choosing of this leader this time around, they're going to get more enraged because they don't know what's going on, and they certainly didn't vote for this. They weren't even given a choice. With regard to Kemi Badenoch, she's now Culture Secretary, which is actually a pretty good thing because she's been very vocal about, this whole gender ideology, woke madness that's taken over our public institutions. So I think that's a good shore up in his cabinet position. But it's going to be an interesting one. I've always said that I'm not too keen on Rishi Sunak because he is an establishment darling. He does believe in net zero, which I think is suicidal. And he does have these tendencies that I don't think are truly conservative, but we will have to see. But, it's too early to tell, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. Certainly some odd choices. I guess, reassured that Kemi Badenoch, who, as you know, I have a lot of respect for, was supporting him. So I guess at least she's fighting the identity wars. But he is a creature of the World Economic Forum, which does disturb me more than a little.
Absolutely.
Now, Esther, I wanted to ask you about, we've got the cover of Prince Harry's book here. I don't know if you've seen it yet. It's called Spare. I don't know what Spare as a title for a book is, but here he goes. I don't know if he's the spare spoke in the wheel or the spare whatever. What do you make of Harry coming back? Here's his book. Is this going to be the great read of all time, or is this going to further distance himself from the royals? What do you reckon?
Well, I suspect he's made some last-minute changes to his book because after the Queen's funeral and just gauging the mood of the country, no one has patience or tolerance for any of his nonsense anymore. But the sad thing is Harry has led quite an interesting life. I do think his time in the army was very interesting, and yes. I think he has a lot of stuff of substance to say. Unfortunately, that has been completely drowned out by the madness which he's descended into with all this woke stuff with Meghan and constantly bashing his family and acting like he is, the most unprivileged, sad person on the planet when he literally lives the life 99% of the entire planet couldn't possibly dream of. So, I don't think it's going to be a very interesting book. I don't think it's going to be as salacious as most people thought. I just think it's going to be a write-off, really.
Well, they're saying it's raw and searing and all these sorts of words. But we have an expression, I don't know if you have a similar one, about a spare so-and-so at a wedding. And that's kind of how the title leaves me thinking that here's this bloke who doesn't really have a role left. He's kind of cut himself off from his future in the royal family. You're right that he did great work with Invictus Games and so on, but there we go. Esther, great to see you, and we will see you again next week. Thanks so much for coming on the show this evening. Who knows who'll be Prime Minister in Britain when we next speak, Esther? It's a different one every week. Thank you.